Hello, friends. Today I want to talk a little bit about these new talents added in 7.0. And I don't want to make too much content on stuff that I'm unsure about, so I'm mostly going to stick to things that I'm very sure about. And that's the sort of stuff that we're going to have justification due to stats. So the best place to get stats is, as usual, Dota Buff. Best stat website, in my opinion, for Dota. And they've got this new section on their heroes page. This is just the basic default, hero, and then you scroll down, it's got this talent usage section, right, where they score every talent based on win rate and pick rate, okay? And most of the pick rates seem to be pretty intuitive, like whichever one you get the gut feeling that you might like more. Armor, for example, seems not good on Ember Spirit. You don't really use it the way he's played, versus cooldown reduction you desperately need, so high pick rate advantage, high win rate advantage, no surprises there. So we're going to talk about the ones that kind of are surprising, okay? Or just general trends, okay? So there's a article on Dota Buff, I'll have this link below, written by Kawaii Socks, I highly recommend it. And he's got a graph on here, which we've got open here. And the graph, this is a graph of all of the highest win percentages. It has to be at least 5% or higher difference, and you put it in this graph, and it's a little dated at this point. For example, this one, the cooldown reduction, which should be on there, be like the third one, is not even on the graph, but still, this allows you to quickly look and glance and see any general trends. And the first one that just immediately jumped out at me, that wasn't really covered in his article, is respawn time, right? If you just look, almost half of these, the ones that are significantly worse, are respawn time. That's important. That's a huge trend to take note of. That's the sort of thing where if you're considering getting respawn time, or if you're actually picking it, you just shouldn't anymore. Templar Assassin, for example, seems fairly straightforward and intuitive that respawn time would be bad. She's supposed to be your core. You don't want her to be dying a lot. And refraction instances is pretty big, so cool. But Ancient Apparition, for example, the second most significant one, a move speed, a thing that doesn't even seem like it would be that important on this hero, is still a huge win rate advantage over respawn time. And I want to emphasize how big that is, right? Let's take Omni Knight, for example. This hero is known as a pub stomper because his ult is just great in pubs. When people just fight, you cast the ult, you cast repel, you cast heal, and just makes your team win more, right? This hero has a 55% win rate. So you could round it. We're going to ignore the decimal values. But you could say that this is a 10% win rate difference, right? The team without Omni Knight has 45. The team with Omni Knight has 55. So that's 10 percentage for actually getting this hero that's known as a pub stomper. Versus this, the difference is 8.6 for the same hero. This is the same hero with averaged out over thousands of games with the same items on average, the same, everything is the same besides this one tiny choice on one hero on the whole team of 5. And this isn't even usually a core. That's how important this is. That's how weak this talent is. That alone makes almost as much of a difference as having an Omni Knight, a known pub stomper. Okay? And that's on a hero that's not a core, where you'd imagine respawn time would be the best. If it's ever gonna be good, it would be good on Ancient Apparition, versus this that's not that good, right? Or comparatively, at least not nearly as good as Refraction instances. Ancient Apparition just doesn't use move speed that well. Like, even if you give him 35, he still can never chase anyone down and can never escape from anyone else. That's why the move speed's not that big of a deal on him. Okay. So, what does that mean? I've heard some proposed theories like, oh, well, you're more likely to pick respawn time if you're already losing the game, so it's got to get this confirmation bias factored into it. And I think that maybe accounts for a little bit of it, but I don't think that's most of it. Because if that were the case, you would see trends on certain other things, like you'd find defensive ones are always worse, which they tend to be a little worse, to the order of like 1 to 2%, maybe 3, but not this 8.6. I think this is a bigger thing going on. And upon further analysis, if you think about it, two things. One, if you just look at these two things, this Ancient Apparition who hits level 20 has this boost to him. And this is no difference. This makes no difference in the game at all unless you die. So in battle, you just don't get this. The only difference is that you'll respawn a little faster. So let's say your team dies and you respawn in 30 seconds, your team's still dead, you can't do anything alone, you're an Ancient Apparition. Or let's say it's a huge team fight outside the enemy base, and you're the only one who gets picked off, and you respawn in 30 seconds, still doesn't matter, because then you have to walk to the... So that's why I think respawn time very rarely affects anything in a positive way, and I would actually go further to say it could conceivably affect your team in a negative way. If you're someone who's getting the most value out of this talent, it means you're dying a lot. Let's say you're someone who's just tilted as all hell. You're walking outside your base, you die, you respawn in 30 seconds instead of 60 seconds, you go out and die again. So let's say you're just tilted as all, you might find a way to feed 4 times in 2 minutes instead of 2 times in 2 minutes. This could be conceivably worse than just having no talent. And then combine that with the fact that in order to get this, you're actually missing out on a very strong boost. That's why I think these are so weak. Other important trends, GPM tends to be weak. I think that's just because of how late in the game it comes. 100 DPM seems like it should be good, right? A Midas is about 115, So why is this bad? Well, A, consider the fact that it's Midas with no XP boost. I mean, that's a huge part of the Midas. That's actually probably arguably the more important part. Every hero that gets Midas, they get it because they need the XP really bad. And it's just come so late. Would you ever get a Midas at 35 minutes in the game? Maybe. I mean, maybe you would. Maybe you could find a reason. But it's certainly not common. And you definitely wouldn't sacrifice plus 12 to all stats for it, right? Okay. Things like this, too, right? You have 300. It seems like that should be just so much. But it's at level 25. And consider the fact that this talent may or may not actually do anything at all, right? By the time you get that, that's like 40 minutes, whatever, 45. The game might end right away. Versus this, you just have to remember what you're sacrificing. This is one of the strongest things in the whole game. Like, you get distance and speed out of it. It's crazy. There's just a clip of Bulldog abusing it to get 2 runes from it. That's how far this orb will go. Now, other little trends that I think is worth going over. Generally, offensive ones will be a little bit better than defensive ones, and it's I think because of that bias we talked about where you're more likely to pick defense if you're losing. But also, consider that anytime you get plus 20 damage, it just overall, it's like a mini Midas. I mean, not really, but the effect is there. You're going to farm faster every situation. You're going to just be doing more damage. Because you just clear every creep wave faster, all of that, and that adds up. Versus this 5 armor only really takes effect while you're being attacked. So, that may or may not actually help you. This, not only is it going to make you better in an actual team fight, they both will make you better in team fight. This will help you in farming for the whole rest of the game. So you'll see that trend. Other ones that I think are interesting, this is the sort of thing that I think is this makes it worth going to these pages. If you have a hero you play a lot, things like this. I would have never chosen the Battle Hunger DPS. I would have chosen armor every time. This is very low win rate difference, right? But it's interesting that Battle Hunger DPS is winning, right? Because I would just assume this is way worse. So even though this isn't a big difference, it's so different from my expectation. That's what makes me think it's significant. So this is the sort of thing where if I'm a person who plays a ton of Axe, I would go in and I would give this a shot because I think most people have just never tried it because it sounds worse. And somehow it is a little bit better. So, alright guys, give me your thoughts, give me your comments, like, subscribe, all that. See you in the comments section.